How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? This is the Peak Tension Podcast. Per usual, since this is brand new, this is Dr. Derek Wilcox and my lovely co-host and wife, Dr. Jennifer Case, 15-time world champion in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, MMA world champion, doctor of my heart. And
So that's the new nickname.
yes, and
Doctor of your heart. Okay.
absolutely. Our guest today, our dear friend, Frass Azab, is the founder and head coach of Warriors Martial Arts Academy in Kansas City, North Carolina,
Oh my God.
Missouri.
Yeah. You guys so bad want me to move. I know. Jen is on
Yeah, I
the
know.
smile.
I'm dropping the hints here. He has over 20 years of experience in martial arts, including Krav Maga, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Muay Thai, Judo, Filipino martial arts, and beyond sport. Backgrounds include a degree in criminology, forensics, security work, training in military police, as well as being a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu national champion. So he's also included in the USA Martial Arts Hall of Fame and a globally traveled instructor focused on real-world self-defense. And most importantly, he walked my friend Luis down the aisle at our wedding.
Hey, dude, I think the best thing about being in pro wrestling, you can just pull that off.
Yes, 100%. So those are your big accolades. Definitely capstone by being in our wedding. But we wanted to talk to you today because, one, you've had an incredibly interesting life. People will say it's good, bad, who knows,
Yeah, it
the
depends
jury's
what I'm
still
going to
out.
share.
Sure, yeah. But
I've been censored a lot ever since my son now is in the service.
yeah, I
I get a
can
text from him like, Dad, don't do this on social media. I'm like, all right.
I can only imagine. Yeah. But you came into my life when I started dating Jen. You and Jen have known each other for many more years. But
Yeah,
I
she
knew
had to
that,
show me for approval.
yeah, which is always appreciated.
Yeah. No, see, here's the thing. I don't know if she wants approval. She's just like, all right, this is what I'm getting. Like, I'm like, okay. Like, I don't know if ever I said anything worked for her. Other than like, I was like, yeah, he's gonna marry you. And I remember one day told me, and it's funny, I didn't even know. And she goes, you know what? If he's not gonna propose, I might just do it. I'm like, maybe he's scared of you. Just freaking do it.
No,
I took you a week and you pulled it off. I'm like, you knew it.
oh, it was that close. That's funny. No, I had to get her to stop talking about it for a minute so I could actually.
So that's what she was doing. I didn't know that. Oh my God, Jen. Like she can't. She has to like bully her way through it.
Yeah, you
So
can't pressure passing the
just
matrimony.
for a fun time's sake, what's kind of what did she actually say? What's some of the things she said to kind of push it?
Just pretty straightforward. Like, hey, are we going to get married? Are we going to do this? I'm like,
That's
give it a minute.
I have time to waste. I'm like 87 years old. I gotta get stuff. I gotta know things. So I know if I need to move on. I gotta I got stuff to
I
do.
did the same with my current relationship. I think we're like all and straightforward, and we're like just looked at each other. We've known each other for a while, just as friends, and we're like, we're just gonna do this. I mean, it comes to a point. I agree.
Sure.
All right.
Yeah. I wanted to do it right though. I wanted to actually surprise her with a proposal, and I feel like I did that. So
Yeah, I was bummed. That day I was hurting because I had a tattoo that got infected and I had to go home. And you were
right.
looking at me. It was one of the few days I ever saw you drink. And I'm like, I check on you. I'm like, you all right? And you're like, mm-hmm. I'm like, And then I went to Jen and she was like, oh, being Jen. And I'm like, you know what, guys? I got to go home. And this shit was leaking down my leg. And then I drive halfway and Danny texts me, Dad just proposed to Jen. I'm like, you guys couldn't wait and just tell me. But hey, I was in the wedding. That matters.
Yes, for sure. For sure.
If it makes you feel any better, my mom was in town that day, and Derek didn't even tell her, so she left town not knowing what was going on.
Damn, Derek, you really.
I tried to get her to stay, but I couldn't be like,
It's not
hey.
gonna work like that way. It's not. I mean, if somebody wants to start, you should have said something.
Right. Well, if it's going to be a surprise, I can't have people leaking the surprise because I worked hard for that surprise.
You did. You did. And I know your wife, she's a pain in the ass. That's why I told her, I was like, man, you got all my respect for pulling that off because she was surprised.
Yep. The funny thing is she was wearing her Snoopy shirt that said nope on it. So I'm on a knee proposing, and it just says nope.
And then you looked at the shirt, you're like, okay. Ah,
Yeah. Okay. So first, I'd like to know more about you in general, because you tell me about where and when you grew up and what the circumstances around that.
man, my life is like when they hear where I've been all my life, they're like, how the hell did you afford doing it? I was like, I didn't. I just got dragged as a child. I was born in East St. Louis. My parents are immigrants back then, and they were going through the process, but that's where they said they can live. It was East St. Louis, but I think East St. Louis in the 70s is not as bad as it is now. And I don't know or remember anything of St. Louis because I was born, and I think a year or two later, they just shipped me to my grandma in Austria. And that's what I kind of grew up first. And I didn't know even I had parents. I just said, oh, so I just got mom. That's, yeah. And my grandma was a Holocaust survivor, and you get to see a little bit militant side the way I was raised with her. So, but it was great. I mean, nothing. Bless her. I love her to death. And then parents one day showed up, and I'm like, "What do?" And that's her family.
Wow. How old were
Yeah.
you
So I
then?
go from there, get dragged all the way to Saudi Arabia, and you're talking about Saudi in the '80s. It's kind of different. It was still things were more free in that because it was after King Faisal for a while. So things took a whole extreme after the Gulf War. So that's when things kind of turned, and we were like, how long are we going to stay here? We lived in England too because my father was my late father. He has a PhD. He's a two doctorate. He has the American board and the European board and hospital administrations. And he brought basically, I would say, the medical American health system back in the day, which was the superior. I don't care what people say, but a lot of great doctors I've met all over the world came educated here. I mean, that's the truth. So he brought that health care system down there. They never had a system, and he pioneered it and started running hospitals. And especially when the militaries would come in, they got to make sure they even got during the wars when the American military forces. That's where I met a lot of them growing up. I've been always around them, especially from the Air Force, which is so ironic how my son joined the Air Force and I never had any influence or anything. It's just like it's crazy. And been around the bases there. We used to come down here and visit, but most of the time we were living a lot in the Middle East. I moved here back in 1995, and everybody will ask me, why Kansas City? I was like, I don't know, ask my dad. This is where he first came in, and he graduated actually here from Park University first, back in the day, before he went, I forgot where he went to the medical school. I think it was in St. Louis. Then he was in Galveston, Texas. So he kind of went those places when it comes to medical, even I think in New Orleans, Louisiana. I remember these places because anywhere I went with him or we moved had to do with his education. So when people ask me, it's like, you travel the world, I was like, I have no option.
That's crazy, man. What age were you when you actually got to kind of meet your parents when you were staying with your grandmother?
I feel when I was in Saudi, when I moved, I want to say, you see, look, I think I was like 4 or 5 years old, something like that.
Okay,
It's like, it's kind of that age. I would say seven completely until I kind of figured out what's going on here.
gotcha.
So it was kind of she had a bounce a lot there, but she was more present in my life that time. Like she was the real figure in my life that even all my memories of how to do things or shape me up and a lot of things is her, to be honest.
Gotcha. Now, you mentioned Saudi Arabia and living there for a while. I feel like the current atmosphere, at least as far as Americans go, like they still see Saudi Arabia as that same kind of hyper restrictive regime. Like, can you give a compare and contrast to that?
Man, oh, absolutely. It was funny. I was just talking to my girlfriend that day because she was even confused by it. But when she sees social media, she's like, is this real? I was like, yeah. So to give you the best comparison I can give it, I will tell you my experience when I returned back after 30 some years. So my father passed away, yeah, I think 4 years ago. And I had no my documents. Nothing. Long story short, not to get into details, I ended up going there so I can get my passport, my citizenship, and all that. My first culture shock from what I used to remember when I walked into the immigration side, but they took me to a private area because literally my documents looked like You sound like you're James Bond. There's no information here. So to meet a woman like in full military clothes on stars on her shoulder, I was shocked. And she introduced herself, and I didn't look at her because out of respect, you don't eye gaze women, unless there's something okay. So it's like me and Jen, if we're talking, out of respect to you, I wouldn't be eye gazing her unless there's this thing where family will know each other and I talk. It's just a cultural thing out of respect. So I kind of turn my head
Expect
when
you
I'm
not to
talking. And
gaze
she
at
looked at me, she was
Derek.
like, sorry?
I expect you not to gaze longingly at Derek out of
Eh,
respect for
eh,
me.
eh, Hey, I think it's safer to look at Derek than you. Typical left side. Here comes Jen. Folks, this is the tamest bird. So I've been abused a lot by her. So she kind of said, she laughed and she mentioned, she was like, yeah, I can tell you've been away for so long. And I was like, is it my document? She's like, not that. You're not even looking at me. I was like, ma'am. And she spoke English immediately to me because, because they are prepped. They know a lot of us are coming back and a lot of us have lived mainly in the United States and some of us in Europe, but a lot of us are been in the United States. The same university Adam went through, that is like a big hub for scholarship for Saudis. Like a lot will live there. And I don't know why would they in that town. There's a lot gets into. I think there's a flight school or something. I forgot what it
Yeah,
is.
he's talking about University of Central Missouri, and
Mhm.
there's a flight program. They work with the Whiteman Air Force Base kids,
Yes.
ROTC.
Yeah, there's a lot. Like it's a huge program between that university and Saudi Arabia students. Like it's crazy how big numbers go there. So I laughed and I said, yeah. She said, no, you can look at me and we can talk about it. I'm like, this is weird. So going in, got my pass. I remember this police officer came in, was very polite. Usually back in the day, they were like militant, excuse my French, assholes. Like they would not communicate with you this way. They always look down on you and people holding ARs and stuff. And you're like, geez, what am I going through? Was very welcoming and all that and laughable. He's like, well, here's what I got for you. Do you have somebody here? I was like, yeah, my brother. He was like, yeah, because you got a lot of work to do. And I didn't understood. And my brother came and he patted me on the back, the officer. He told my brother, like, it's going to be an interesting ride for him. And here I am with him and looking left and right, women driving, even speeding and cutting off guys and flipping each other. I'm like, wow. Yeah, I was like, what? It's just happening. And the most awkward moment for me. So we finished all that stuff, and my brother's like, come on, let's go walk around the neighborhood. And we're walking, and they're very active. That's got to tell you. That's society, culture, one thing, especially in my city, they're very active. Like when it comes to putting in the time, and you notice all the ladies will put the sneakers, so this is their walking run time and all it's like. So it's just constantly out, especially, but not during the day because it's hot. Life starts after like 7 o'clock once the sun comes down. That's why we call them vampires. They come out when the sun comes down. So this was weird, and even my brother said, "Yeah, I'm making it weird." So this lady out of nowhere, I would give her maybe in our 20s, beeline towards me, grab my forearm, and here I'm freaking, I'm doing this. Like, I'm like, what? You are touching me for, because you can't do that there. From what I realized. And she's like, where did you get these tattoos? I said, question me where I'm from. I said, I'm from here. She's like, really? Yeah. And my brother nudged me. He's like, "Can you stop making it weird and just stop or normal? Because you're really close." I mean, so this could explain to you the difference. If I did that back then, oh, I'd be booked somewhere. You can't. I can't talk to women and just seeing them in stores and seeing them in main, very big positions. I'm not just talking, oh, we got them all the women out. Let's just give them the grocery store jobs. No, you're talking bank presidents. So that is crazy. And some of the first, uh, you call it, those bullet trains or those fast trains? What's this on my woman in Saudi Arabia? Fully. The ones that go to NASA, women team. Not one man was part of the team. So just
So
to
it's going to
say,
be successful.
huh?
So it's going to be successful.
I'm not going to comment. I hope so. I hope so for everybody's sake. I'm going to be, should go into space. I'm like, I hope it is. But yeah, it's like that. And it's, just to see movie theaters and like you've been watching because you're a wrestling fan and you just see them how they are there. People think they're straight, but the only law that's still intact, which is cultural more than anything, is called public decency. So you're not expected to walk around like you see people go in the club with their G-string coming out of their jeans and full on. Because I went to a huge music fest and I literally felt, Jen, you remember the ones we used to have here, like the red, white, and boom sandstone. Remember those days?
Yeah. Yeah.
They had one like that, and people were dressed like they were just at a huge 9-hour music festival. Someone to cover, some ladies to walk around, girls with, showing their abs and that. And I'm just sitting here, people watching more than enjoying the music because it's just a total shock to me. Now, that being said, there's places like when I go to the mall as a man and everybody else, they don't want us to wear shorts. It's just like in countries say you have to have a shirt and long pants. There is laws like that, but it depends on the place. But yeah, I mean, even public, PDA over the top stuff. No, so, but I'm gonna tell you, it's it is not a day difference, and I feel women there have more right than men, and I think it's great. And I think Jen will like this story, and I will tell you, this was the shocker to me. I was standing again. I just like to walk by the beach, and as usual, I have something I'm eating. And I look and I see this woman giving the stare of death and her arms are crossed like this, right by the cop. And I see the cop pointing for the guy and he said, "Come here." And the kid want to move, and the cop literally said, "You know it's gonna get worse for you. Just come down here now." Kid turned around, walked in. Long story short, he catcalled her. He grabbed his phone because all of our information are in the phone. He said, "Give me your phone." Scans it, puts it, and I guess the kid got fined or maybe spend the day on the cooler, but it's like that. And there was cameras everywhere. So these are kind of behaviors that it really frowned on. And that's what I tell you. I think they got more rights than us. So I think, I don't know, I went really deep, Derek. I hope that answers some of the questions.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't think I know anybody that is American and is from here that really has an up-to-date grasp on what Saudi,
No, you're
especially
correct.
somewhere like Jeddah or Riyadh
Yeah.
is actually like now.
And
So
the thing I see, like you said, I wish I want to see more common people than Instagram influencers going because nobody believes it. They can make it and I get it. It's a lot of influence. And I think they're getting also I think if you're an influencer, you get a certain visa. And when you come, oh yeah, but there's guidelines. They don't want you to hear talking politics. They don't want you to talk religion, not just our the Islamic nothing in general. Stick to if you want to do, your social media, just being professional, I'm not sitting there causing a scene, but I've noticed I looked at it and I saw a visa. I knew I was like, man, these influencers are going in like a lot. So that's a plus and a minus because not a lot of people believe these influencers. And I wish a lot of the common folks would go, but it's just like funny when you talk about like the wrestling show now coming up. I literally have a bunch of friends I know for the first time ever buying tickets and going. I'm like, well, I'm Saudi, I'm not going. I'm pissed off now. So, but that's going to be a good experience for them to bring back home of what they felt. These are regular people and just wrestling fans want to see how that goes. It's instead of just an influencer that's getting paid for it.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, since you brought up the wrestling, let's hit on that. You are one of the owners of Central States Wrestling,
Yes,
professional wrestling organization, and not just any professional wrestling organization. It's one of the most storied from way back in the territory days, the NWA. Mainly the name that is synonymous with that is Harley Race.
Yep.
So let's tell us a little bit about that. How you got involved, the history of it, how big of a headache it is now.
I think, and Jen is going to get a kick of this. I think being around MMA and Jiu-Jitsu prepped me for the second phase of my life because it's similar. There is that. So nothing shocks me as much, but the level of commitment is awesome between the pro wrestlers. Yeah, absolutely. But you're dealing with the same disorganization. The last minute stuff. So that was kind of, but yeah, Central State Wrestling is a very prestigious league. It's crazy. The library they have, we finally got it and uploaded on the YouTube, and literally you can sit there 1,000 hours in there. That really goes to times. It's just
Great. I'm not going to see Derek again until next year. He's getting ready to log in. Well,
I can see his hands.
See you later, honey.
For sure.
Jen, when we get to meet you, I think you and Deanna will have a good time sitting together. Me and Derek will be just watching wrestling. I just
Sounds
got
like
her into it, and she one day looks like, I can't believe I'm watching this.
Oh my God, I hated it. I hated it before I started watching it and getting into it.
And then
I like it. I
yeah,
like watching girls get beat up,
You should come to
And
Jen's
guys
matches then.
looking weird.
yeah, she lives in the locker room with us. Like,
She likes weird looking guys. That's why she's with you. Now it
Yeah.
makes sense.
who does pro wrestling? Or jiu-jitsu is not weird.
It's a whole different kind of weird.
Oh,
Yeah. I'm going to start wearing the same outfits as Rhea Ripley soon.
No.
We've got ADCC tournament coming up next weekend. I've got my outfit ready.
Hey, man, if that's what you and Jen like, all right.
If his OnlyFans like it and will pay for it, I'm fine.
Yeah, anyway, if this stem cell doesn't work, I'm not doing that because I'm done. But yeah, before we got told to redirect it, yeah, it's very prestigious, like especially in the Midwest. Like you said, the territorial times they got there, and it's crazy when you see like from Ric Flair to all these big legends had away. You know, Sergeant Slaughter was one of them. A lot of matches he had here.
Shawn Michaels as well, yeah.
Yeah, and I got involved about I'll say 4 years ago or so, with my boy Hoodie, and you know, him and his brother had a team up the house, and they're kind of trying to get a change, and that time it was DWF. They want to bring back CSW, and they said, "Hey, we got this idea." You know, and Hoodie always he trained with me. Let's just trying to do this thing, and he always talk about something like the tribe, and that let's do something, and went in, and went from let's give it this shot, and we're not being like to becoming town heroes. And honestly, just and then after we put a lot of sweat, blood, and work in it, something the owners had a lot of things going on and really wanted to just stop running it. Which I get it. You get into an age, it's a lot. And me and my partner at that time, my partner now, but at that time we're turning as Moonshine Mantel. We were just kind of thinking, like, how? Because there was no wrestling anymore in Kansas City. If CSW go there, there is, but they're not the legit ones. Like one of them had the other day, not this, a couple of years ago, tag team, and one guy was holding a blue dildo, and I'm like, how can you? Yeah, it's that kind of it's crap.
The classic catch as catch can technique there.
I think so. Maybe that's a good Krav Maga thing. You just So
That's going to go
we just
downhill
got
real quick.
So yeah, we talked about it and push for it. My brother jumped in, being an investor from all that, and that's something we all dreamt about to have. And here we are. We came back a couple of months ago. This was our third show. Is going to be this Saturday, and it's been going strong. And we kind of changed it. I mean, you've attended it, and we're bringing a lot of indies and some stars that've been with WB that we have connection with, and just give a breath of fresh air and make it really a professional, family-friendly show. And that's the goal, is to bring it back to our roots, because it kind of diverted in the indie scene, and it's not something you want to go bring your kids and just watch what they're doing, and we're not too kiddie, like not just old kids and not just extreme. We're just like down in the middle, good family and sports entertainment.
Yeah, it's been cool. The last show I was at, I was literally sitting next to a group of like 10 kids. They were all losing their minds.
I
Their
know.
parents weren't freaking out about what they were seeing. So it
Oh,
was entertaining and it was edgy, but it wasn't so much that you're having to earmuff the kids or something like that. So it's really, really cool shows at CSW. If you guys are ever in the Kansas City area for one of these shows, I highly recommend going. It's a really cool time.
appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. Yeah, I was wish you guys were coming for this one, but Jen had to go for her 50,000 numbered. So my God.
I will say one thing I want to talk about with your wrestling, someone who's not a wrestling fan, having, when I was in the 80s, when I was a child, it was always looked down upon. And I think that's kind of what's ingrained in me to think
Yes.
it's silly, like not something like this was like backyard, and then your show where these guys are actually performing, and then, talking with you and Adam and what you guys actually do to train and to get ready.
Yeah.
I see it as much more of a performance than it, it's not like a sideshow or a spectacle, or just there's a lot that goes into it. Have you noticed over the past, decade or so, that change where people aren't seeing this as a wrestling is, for toothless rednecks, and it's more of a performance art that everybody can enjoy?
No, you're absolutely correct. I mean, even for like my girlfriend, for instance, when she came and she watched, like the BB shows, she saw how the big spectacular show and how it looks up. But when she came with us, and we was a small one, we was doing something for a charity group, and that's actually what gets me more. I love doing this because the involvement of helping children, and that's a lot what we do. Every show we got, there's a percentage that go to a charity organization of ours. We actually have a deal next year to work with the Special Olympics, and they agreed. So that's a big one coming, and I'm excited about that. But to go back to what you said, they did change, and that happened. I don't know, Dick. I think the switch came to more professional, like athletes, than what it, just a big dude and slobbering around. And I would say over what 20 years, kind of, maybe the change started kicking in, and now it became more. You see that more professional sports athletes are in it.
Yeah, I'd say so. The WWE really started recruiting people out of college athletics
Yes.
intentionally. They focused a lot more on that kind of a demographic. And you can see the product of it now because the people in ring are doing just ungodly athletic things. So the entertainment value in ring is completely different.
Mm-hmm.
It's not as psychologically based, I guess. There's a lot more flash
Yeah.
and flair to what the people are doing, but the people who can tell stories in the ring with the simplest stuff, it's crazy because they're still the ones that are on top. But you have a lot of very cool matches to watch on top of that. So you get a few people who are able to mix the two as well.
Absolutely.
Seth
If
Rollins is probably one of the people that I've seen that really does a lot of high flying, super athletic stuff, but the stories that are always around him are super good and he's emotive and they keep the audience engaged on an emotional level, not just a, oh, look at that kind of level.
Mm-hmm. No, I 100% agree, and I think, and now I'm managing a younger team, and it's like that's my son's crew, and you notice the influence of video games has been. Believe it or not, I heard it before and I thought it was crazy. I never felt this old, but I'm sitting here one day talking about movie, and they're like something from some video game. I'm like, I just literally looked at him, and here's my old ass wrapping my legs. I'm like, are you guys talking about some video game that you're gonna pull this off in the ring? And they all looked at me like the old geezer and like, yeah. I'm like, and going to back what you said, what have you noticed in the ring? You see some crazy stuff and you're like, whew, where'd I got that creative? So that's I think it's the problem. I mean, even if you see in our organization, we're really hard on the psychology. And like for instance, I think the best one and she's gonna have a great future. One of our stars, Blair, for instance, she just had that. She had it. And she's, she's gonna be in the first match we ever did in CSW for a women's championship. This is the first ever happened here in the Midwest. So I'm excited to see that. But she kind of spends a lot of time in that psychology and entertaining and reaching to the crowd and the alcoholism, but she kind of cuts down on that, which is good because you don't want to see everything happen. And plus, you want longevity. And I think all three of us can understand longevity. The
Yeah.
maintenance, what it feels like. I think Jen gets the torch for it.
Yeah.
I just refurbish the model and keep on going.
Man, just thank God what's in your skull is really functional because that once it's go, I was like Derek will be like, well, the old lady's sitting on the chair now.
Yeah. She's told me before that she's going to be in a wheelchair, and my job was to take her up to the mat on competition day and dump her out on the mat so she can crawl to the middle and slap, bump, and go.
Me and my girlfriend had the same joke because my girlfriend has MS and I have fibromyalgia, so that's kind of been one thing works unique with our relationship of every time it flares. But we try to decide when things really hit bad who's going to take care of both of us because we're not going to be able to do it for each other.
What we could do is attach wires. And Derek, we could play Rock'em Sock'em Robots, and I'll control one and you control the other one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You'll have to
you
have
know,
functioning thumbs for that, though.
Hey, I can touch my finger and my thumb together.
yeah. But yeah, it's going like Jin, it changed. And honestly, going to Derek, you touched on the WWE looking for athletes. Actually, one of the requirements, not requirements, but what gives them a flag that hey, we're interested. Purple belts in jiu-jitsu, the minimum.
Really?
Yep. If you have a
Wow.
jiu-jitsu background and it says purple belt, I'm like, oh. It's like, have you ever been with a real purple belt? Because they never work out. Yeah. Sorry, Derek. You're one of the few.
Well,
But yeah,
I'll be
jiu-jitsu
purple
is a big
forever.
deal. I mean, that's the young guys that come and train because what jiu-jitsu helps them, it's similar. It's just the transitions. And a lot of them that do it, like Stephanie Vaquier, when you watch how she moved the curry and cross, there's a fluidity, when they start switching instead of just being stiff as, switching or chaining some stuff. Wrestling chaining is great, but when you mix it with jiu-jitsu, it just brings it to a different level. And that's something everybody's seen. And I truly believe in my heart, you're going to see more of that because a lot of them now, I mean, there's a couple of them now are black belts in jiu-jitsu. Yeah, in pro wrestling, and a lot of them understand it. They know it. They use the language. So I like that. I'm excited about how that jiu-jitsu plays a role now in that too. Because back in the day, like you see you with the gi, they're like, "What does this guy got to do?"
Yeah, Daniel Bryan from WWE or Bryan Danielson in AEW or his indie run, he's a really good example of that, and I think that's a really big reason why his in-ring work is so
Yeah,
praised because
absolutely.
he has the combination of learning a lot of in-ring pro wrestling from someone like Shawn Michaels and a lot of other people, but he also trained under Gene LaBelle, I believe, for a while, and, other jujitsu
But he was,
practitioners, so all
wasn't he in Team Couture with Randy Couture as well?
sounds right, I believe he was
Yeah,
in that
in
area,
In
yeah.
Vegas, I think he was. That's where he got more, with the ruggedness of parts. He trained with Randy Couture.
Yeah, the current guy that comes to mind for that is Kyle O'Reilly. I've actually trained with him a little bit in Orlando,
Really?
and yeah, he invited me out to the Gracie school that he goes to,
Hmm.
and we got to work together. And his jujitsu is extremely smooth, and he always has a place to go. His transitions are great, and you can see it in his in ring stuff. Like
I was about
people
to
think
say, I
it's
had no
like
idea
it's
he
an
was
MMA
jiu-jitsu.
gimmick.
I can
Yeah,
see it now. Makes so much sense right now when you see. I've watched a match of his, and I'm like thinking about this, like, I think I kind of changed his style. That's the only thing that went in my head, like he was kind of fluid, but not. I wasn't used to it seeing from him.
yeah, it was a wild thing for me because we trained together, and I worked my lasso guard, and I went into a lasso sweep there, and he made a comment or something that like, "Oh, that was cool," and then literally a week or 2 later, I see him do it on TV.
That's cool. That is so cool. Well,
Yeah.
the other guy we know, God, forgot his name. I know him from Kansas City now. He's been competing like crazy.
Baron Corbin
Yeah,
from the yeah.
I think isn't he purple belt already? Because he won pads or something.
Yeah, he may be brown now, but I know he was
Really?
purple. We
Okay.
we saw him at the Masters
Yeah,
Worlds.
I told him when you sent me the picture. I sent to him. I was like, "Hey, man, my dude saw you there." He was like, "I think he got black eyed or something happened." Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's amazing to see that, and they're not looking for. And I think Jenna's when she say about the toothless redneck, they're not bringing people that look like that anymore. So it's keeping that crowd away. I mean, when you go to the crowd, which I like a lot about the crowd, they're not like an MMA crowd because I despise that crowd. It's just, I thankfully retired from anything related to MMA or cornering just because of the whole crowd in there. But they're more friendlier and accepting. That's kind of the difference.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. The culture's definitely changed a lot in there. I guess since the '90s, the people that grew up around the '90s watching the Attitude Era and the Monday Night Wars, they see wrestling as something different than
Hmm.
what it was before then. It was super gimmicky and really cheesy before then, and it's still gimmicky and cheesy to a degree. But you have a better suspension of disbelief, if we're gonna use a theater term for it.
Yes.
Like, you can jump into what they're doing. You don't have to try and convince somebody is like, "No, no, no, it's real." Like, "No, no, no, everyone knows it's predetermined." A lot of
Yeah,
what happens in between the start and the finish is, improv, but
and it
it's
hurts.
yeah,
I'll tell you,
yeah.
it does hurt. It's I told you my story about one move that I refuse ever will take is a powerbomb. We did that one day. Just I was curious. I ate that and I was like, I would never let any human being do that to me again. It's just weird. I've done judo. I've been thrown. I've done. It is just something about being completely off, like your entire body in there and coming down like a pancake. It is the weirdest feeling ever. And you don't shoulder roll or anything. You like how we eat it and just going boom. And I'm like, nope, this will never be allowed to me again. I'm like, I can't do that. So
Well, you touched on it here. I wanted to touch on your actual training background, because you've done so many different martial arts in so many different places. Would you mind giving us a rundown of everything you've done there?
so my main focus when I started was judo. I started was very young at 8 years old because when it actually wasn't by choice. Um when you in Saudi Arabia in the curriculum growing up there in school, like when you come in and get your books, you also pick a ball sport and a martial art. So, of course, when it came to ball sports, there's no way they're gonna put me in basketball. I mean, I'm old and I'm short. Back then, I was just like a little runt. And they had the martial arts I saw. They had taekwondo, of course, but it was kind of different than what you see now. They had judo, and I really forgot what was the other one. And I was like, "What the hell is that judo?" They kinda explained to me. I was like, "Alright, we'll go to it." And that's how I started. And my sensei at that time, he was from Japan. And I think I figured that out. When you're young, you start connecting the dots because I remember I seeing him changing his gi and seeing all the tats on him. And I'm thinking, from Japan, never goes to Japan, and he's all tattooed. Huh. Okay. You know?
Context clues there. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It just kind of give me stories of the MMA Pride era time of who's, but he really was tough, tough. I remember telling my students like how I am so quick.
We have full connection.
I think you may have dropped off there.
Will it let him just come back in?
I think so. Yeah.
No, I hope we don't lose that first half of recording. I'm just gonna leave it, let it keep going, see if he'll pop back in.
If you stop recording, can we just fuse 2 recordings together?
I don't want to hit the stop recording button because I think it records on his end, but we should be
Now
able
we're
to
back.
edit out this part
Okay,
here.
cool. Hey.
Hopefully it recorded, or we just lost 40 minutes of shit.
It was, I mean, the internet died because it knew that you were getting ready to talk about how good you are at handling balls. So,
Oh, no. Anyway,
Okay, so we on our end, we got to the context clues of the guy from Japan who was your
Yeah.
sensei.
Yeah.
I think that was about it.
okay, cool. So
yeah,
Yeah,
you talked
so-
about watching him longingly as he changed his clothes. That's when it cut out.
Jesus, Jen. It's like, I don't know. Anyway, yeah. So I was talking about his training was very tough. He was a man of few words, and a lot of it, he nods and that. But he used to have this thin, I can't describe it, but this was kind of like a thin rubber. It looks like a bamboo, but it's really thin. It has a good snap to it. Man, I have so much like hits on my heels because we always, when we used to go do throws or that, and my sacrifice throw became the best is because I was always on the balls of my feet because he will hit you on your heel, like bruise it. Even sometimes it cuts. Nobody was going to question him. And there was no such thing as mats. It was wooden floor. So you will break fall. You will learn how to break fall. So I would say there's some kind of mat, but really it's nothing. It's nothing. So yeah, that was kind of my first experience. But he had a liking to me and always starts talking and started bringing me under him to assist and that. And as I was getting up in the ranks, I started helping, running warm ups and teaching and kind of watching some of his secrets. And a lot of it I've learned from him more than anything is breaking down things without even have to over elaborate too much. He was very straight to the point. It's not gonna be like, Danaher sitting there and teaching you what the throw came from and this. All that. He is literally, like I said, man of few words, and I've kind of learned from him. You really can get to the point of teaching right when you just kind of show it, and he did that, and I was very grateful for him. So I kind of moved up that. I started after that. I was getting good in judo, and he kind of noticed, and he taught me a lot of my subs. Like my 2 things I've gained from him that, and I'm not speaking against jiu-jitsu because I love jiu-jitsu. But one thing he done with me that I have not experienced with any other coach is in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I have such a good choke defense from him, right? You can hang on my back and I will fight it night and day. It's rare have somebody pull that off. It's just the way he taught me from it. And getting the back and just kind of go and playing with as much as you can. So he was very good with that. I don't know much on his background other than judo and what the things I've seen, but I truly believe he was kind of one of those guys that has enough knowledge, and I will call it maybe like, judo jiu-jitsu style, like that old kind of real different, not the Kano kind of style of judo. Very different. And I think, Jen, you know what I'm talking about, especially with Kano, how he changed things. So that was kind of, then my interest peaked, and I was watching a lot of boxing. My grandma was a big boxing fan. Like Children Muhammad Ali and that. And I got interest in that, but I also was a soccer player, so I was good at my kicks and just got involved in more Muay Thai locally. Started doing that, and then got caught. I was sent to train. We went to Taiwan. I mean, Thailand. Sorry, and I kind of felt it was more like I ended up there working for a bunch of Thai people and doing fights and just getting food for it. So, yeah, when I watch all these camps and one of my friends went and he told me back, he's like, you know what, man? I was too young to know, and I got sent, and I thought I was literally going to be just training and having fun. No, all I did was getting my ass beat, train, 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 and then go fight, and then come back and you get dinner. That was our crew, literally what they did to us. I mean, open experience to me, and I've done good when I came back with it. But it's very different just living that. You know, like people go, I'm going to do a jiu-jitsu hostel. I'm going to travel. I was like, yeah, sometimes you go to places you end up really seeing what the art is about. And, it taught me a lot. It taught me a lot. It just hit me. But I was like, yeah, that's kind of like sweatshop fighting style.
God.
That is literally what I felt.
Well, you also spent
You
some
know?
time in Brazil too, right?
Yes, I did. Back, I went to first I stayed in Brazil. I went there back in 2000. I'm trying to think when Adam was born. 2008. I went there and I was living there. And and jiu-jitsu, was still coming up that time because of UFC and that. And I literally, it's 2009, and I remember really well when I started wearing the gi. But I used to go, and there was this big chubby guy, bald, and he was a family of the friends at that time when I was living there, and I was married. And he always asked me, he's like, "Hey, you want to lutador?" And I was like, "Yeah, I like fighting." And I was wrestling too at that time. I came as a wrestler from high school here when I went. But it's funny. So he showed me one day, and I was like, "Oh, that's the Gracie stuff." That's how I'm thinking. So I go in, and I'm thinking I mauled the white belts, just with my wrestling and pinning it. Man, he brought this little blue belt guy, your typical jiu-jitsu, just you look at him, you're like, this is gonna be easy. I was like literally had wrestling douche mentality. I gotta tell you, I was good at kickboxing. I know how to throw. I was good with my wrestling and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, man, that kid did things to me. I just looked like your usual guy that is trained, but just watching jiu-jitsu plays like, what just happened? And that's how I started. And my master Zika, it's funny, I was just talking to him because his birthday is the same day my son's birthday. We used to celebrate it there. And he was a judo champion, actually up to Olympic level. And a lot of and he told me, started learning and ended up learning the lineage, was Navignon. He was under Hudson Mora. And then I like Hudson Houdini when I started seeing him because he's a tiny guy, and I like the tiny guy style. I like the big guy style, of course, but I'm like, I'm small. And I just learned some, and that was my beginning road to that. Came back 2010 when I was working here at a martial arts academy when I was teaching with them self-defense and got involved in that stuff. And then that's when I got the call from my master that one of their guys is coming here, who is Master Leo that I'm with. He said, yes, just trying to look for around. Came back with him, let him around. Then I went back to Brazil, stayed with him for a while when I lost my job and, the usual man story, lost my job, lost my woman, all that kind of stuff. Like, fuck it, I'm done. Took my son and went, and we were living in the favelas, in Rio de Janeiro. And it was Villa da Pina. It's called the Villa Pina. And started training. And one day he said, you had a dream, you want to compete and be a champion here? I said, yeah. We went for this tournament, and it was their nationals, Rio de Janeiro. It was 2012. And I can't remember. I'm trying to remember if it was close. It was in the summertime. I can't remember the month, but I know it was summertime there because it gets colder there when it's summertime. And went in and I did a gen case. I tore my ACL and MCL by my first match with the dickhead that went down after it and choked him and continued and won it. And that's just kind of my jiu-jitsu hookup started from since then. It's just crazy when I was talking to some friends back then. I remember seeing so many of the who's who, especially in their atmosphere in Brazil. It's kind of different because you got the nominating of people, their flags, and the crowd only goes to the right. And if you're the opposite team, Grace, you're by there. And it's just a way different atmosphere than the tournaments here. Like you sit in that bullpen, it's almost like in the Gladiator movie. You're just waiting to work in. So they're passionate about it. So, but yep, that's my jiu-jitsu story. And ever since then, that's I've just been doing it. 16 years in jiu-jitsu.
That's wild. No, that
Yeah, I know.
didn't stop there, but you eventually ran into Eric Paulson at some point as well, correct?
Yes. I got interested. Met, I always liked, I'm a big fan of his stuff, So it's kind of funny when he finally kind of figured out. So went down to Iowa, saw him for the first time, and they had a thing they were doing, just get people in, and Josh Barnett was there. And I had an interest friend told me about, hey, attend this, introduce yourself, and if you want to join the affiliation and just be part of the, CSW. Of course, my first experience in walking in anything jujitsu or combat sport related, when some idiot say, "Oh, that guy does Krav Maga," you become the target. I'm like, "Oh, dude, that's not my all." And it's crazy. I mean, when I go to the Krav Maga guys, they say his background jujitsu, I become the target. So it's just been damn if you do, damn if you don't. I'm like Charlie Brown of the martial arts when I get involved. Yeah. So the first one I went, and Josh Barnett just mauled me, and I was not. I came to a point I remember I would never forget it. He did a knee shield, and in my head I was like, you know what? I was so pissed because I got stretched out, completely stretched out. I'm like, I'm gonna drop an elbow on this big motherfucker and just run. So anyway, finish that up. He get up, slapped the back of my head, and said, "Good job, kid." I look at him. I said, "I'm 30 years old." And I was like, "All right." And I don't know. It was that away, and Coach Eric sat with me, and he got an interest in me, and met Ben Jones that time, and it just happened from there, and we just became and actually coach. I give big props to a lot of people a lot of people never say this, but a lot of the who's who coaches out there that started developing their own, Coach Eric Paulson is behind it. I will tell you that. He literally one of the only guys that he even saw that in me. He said, "Man, you have some a lot like similar to him. There's a lot of things, of course, Coach Paulson, but he always seen my understanding of martial arts and the things I've done, and he liked that, and he never had me like, I'm just a catch guy or I'm just, Everybody always says, "That's Fraz." That's how he called me, Fraz. And he helped me develop my ground combatives program because there was nothing around. He told me how he hated back in the day when Krav Maga was coming up, and he was like, they're known to be thieves. I was like, oh yeah, they are. They claim it's their system, but Jen understands. Jen did combative military. It's combatives. It's unarmed combatives. You cannot become like you were created to evolve. You can evolve it, but you did not create it. So he saw my view in it of more jujitsu. And that's why it lacked, and I was not liked when it come to the combative self-defense world, and especially Krav Maga people. And he literally, it just with his work and spend time with me, I started seeing things. I'm like, oh, the shortcuts of how do you do self-defense is really different than how we do it in that. And you can literally do both. And that's the problem. I mean, Jen, you understand that when how self-defense world comes different when it's like, yeah, dude, we're just guys. I'm not gonna pull guard on somebody on a pavement. They don't think we're gonna do that, and they don't think we can bend your finger or poke your. Yeah, we're all gonna do that when you jump on me. But that's been the biggest gap that I've been working on for so long. For 22 years, is just breaking that. And the fault I will give it more in the self-defense industry because they make a mockery of themselves with the shit they post and their lack of knowledge of combat sports implementing it. They think you don't do combat sports. Like, no, you do combat sports first, then you do self-defense. You can do both because you have a more understanding of that body collision, man. When you have someone on top of you without punching. Derek, I mean, you're a big, strong guy. How was your first experience when you had somebody just on top of you when Jen dragged you into jiu-jitsu class?
No,
Maybe.
I was at the time I just retired from being a really high level power lifter, still very
Yeah.
much like at my peak strength in general.
Yeah.
And I would get put on the mat. Somebody like Jen would just turn me about 45 degrees, and then all of a sudden, all my strength meant absolutely nothing. Soon enough, I
See?
couldn't breathe. And
Yeah.
it's just a completely different world. So everything that I'd trained for the last 20, 25 years up to that point was completely useless. And that brings on a crazy amount of anxiety, get me the hell out of here.
But it's that thing about jujitsu that people don't understand. We have that confidence, but it's the confidence of understanding how I can make you hate life under me, and if I want to kill you, or it's just it's hard to explain it sometimes to people to understand. Like we have more of any martial art awareness of the body mechanics, or it's just like you said, she turned me in a way that I can't do it. We understand how to do that to a bigger person. There's a big difference between your wife strength and size, 100%. But she's able to pretzel you and me in ways because she understands how. But she had to go through that experience. That's what I believe jiu-jitsu does. That's why I believe anybody that's self-defense need combat sport experience. I don't like the word combat sport, to be honest with you, because it goes to a whole different shenanigans that, all respect. I've trained with Hakan, love him to death. He's an amazing human being with a plethora of knowledge. He had always issues with combat sports. I had an argument. No, it took only in combatives one human being that really gave me that strength of my argument was Kelly McCann. Coach Kelly McCann is just amazing. He's like and he stopped now. Yeah, he always does seminars, but he's a Muay Thai guy and a dirty boxer, and he is a war veteran. A couple of terms he did, and he understands combative. He wrote the book of combatives here that a lot of people use. And I even come in, he just sits here, holds his pipe. He's like, so why you don't think it'd work that way? Because I tell him, and then he was like, I never thought of it. But you see the mindset he's from? And he said, if you do not go kickbox, he even tell people, it's like, you want to become great in self-defense? Go take a match. Of course, nobody wants to do that. Or jump in a jiu-jitsu tournament. I push my students. That experience will show when someone is holding you with 100% goal of tapping your ass out or putting you out. Nothing can implement that experience. And that's why I have issues when, me and Jim talk about it, laugh when we watch what they teach women or men. It's not just women. Like they say, the mockery has become all over right now. And it's like, man, really, when shit hit the fan, I mean, the best experience, I tell people, the best experience, you want to know what a street fight looks like? Get somebody trying jiu-jitsu for the first time and go roll with it. Arms everywhere. You as a jiu-jitsu person, like, holy shit, I got to control this person so I don't go and get hurt. When you get someone, that is the closest experience you can get to a street fight when you come up. I'm telling you, untrained person, which is the majority of fights you're going to go. Trained people don't pick fights. There is a percentage, but that is not very high. And that's what I think, I've done my years, and I will give that to, Coach Paulson and the guys there a little bit more is even jiu-jitsu, but there was that aggression and catch and understanding of the control itself. And especially, with catch as catch can, it's like the 2-on-1 and all that. It opened my eyes like, man, people need to try some of this stuff if they want to do self-defense. And I have my self-defense. My program was one of the biggest, but now it's not a more focused jiu-jitsu because nobody wants to do the real self-defense. They all want hit the pads, those drumsticks. And yeah. I mean, yeah, we give people sometimes they want to do a workout. That's fine. But I can't tell them it's like, oh, now you're going to walk out like Billy Badass. And a lot of people don't want to do work now anymore. They don't want to be in shape. It's like you have to be in shape to fight.
That always seems like such a dangerous scenario because you're giving people who don't have any real applicable skills, and you're giving them the confidence to think that they can handle themselves in something like that. And some of them want to test it at some point, especially if they're feeling cocky. And then you tend to see some videos online where that goes poorly.
Yeah, that's one of my main arguments for why you should not go easy on ladies when you go against them in jiu-jitsu and in practice and stuff, is because you build that false confidence. Like,
Yes.
you've got to roll hard with them. You've got to roll technical. You've got to roll sound. You can't just let them do things. If they're not in the right spot, they're not in the right spot. Right? If you just let people do things like that, they think that they can physically achieve things they can't. And if rubber hits the road, you're setting them up for failure.
You know what's crazy, Jen? You know who the only two women from my entire time of doing jiu-jitsu or combat sports that has that mentality? Two women. I've trained and rolled with them. I said, I will kill you if you go easy. You, and back then when I trained with Claudia Gadilla down in Rio de Janeiro, because she was part of the Navigno, it was the Kimura Navigno, it was the group. She was not. You go easy on me. She will say, I will fuck you up. That's how she was. And in a way, sometimes as a man, you're like, how far, but when she hits you, you're like, you know what? We're going. But I agree with you. But Jen, let's be honest. How many women want that? That's the problem. And I've been more outspoken, the most strong, voice down here for women doing martial arts, women self-defense and that. Right now, it's just they don't want to do that. And I saw the difference, very different. Ever since 2020, it's a very different generation we have right now when it comes to.
I think it's kind of a double-edged sword. Like when I started 25 years ago, I literally had to fight for my spot on the team.
Yes.
Like the guys were trying to beat me up to get me to leave. And now the gyms are so much more welcoming to females. Like they get, there's always like a little clique of girls that will run over and be like, welcome to jiu-jitsu, which is great. I want them to feel welcomed. But The bad part of that sword is that the expectations are starting to come way down.
Thank you.
That's not what it should be. Whether you're a blue belt male or a blue belt female, you should have the same technical skills and be able to grapple at the same intensity. You may not be able to, pick up your opponent, but you better be able to do a perfect knee pass. You better be able to hit an armbar from the correct position, set it up, skies it, and hit it when they're not looking. You shouldn't have any of that handed to you. That's not a big opponent versus a little opponent. That's skill. And unfortunately, we're wanting to be so welcoming that we're dropping the standard, and that's a disservice.
And that's honestly is, and I never spoke much about publicly other than you guys, and it could be about, but Derek knows we had that discussion when he came over to train, when he asked me. And that is the reason I don't teach combative self-defense anymore. It's not that I won't, I just have no time for that. My expectations are different, and nobody can handle it. Now I let my other guys teach it, and they have their way, and they're tough, but it is no one gonna handle that stuff. Nobody. They want it toned down different. I have women like, oh, my hand, this is my. I was like, you think you're gonna punch this guy in the face? Go, try it. Try to just bare hand punch a man in the face. Everybody think you can throw a punch because they see these images of a man dropping down with a punch. And I was like, no, you're gonna break your hand.
Yeah, we were just talking about that. I don't remember what. It was probably a Marvel show or something. We're watching this little tiny 125-pound lady dropping these 200-pound men with strikes. It's like, yeah, that's going to happen.
Yeah. And unfortunately, there's nobody out there going and saying it as it is. Self-defense for women only. And I just want to train with a woman. We got that. Our goal is to bring him in that. And some women, oh no. I mean, okay, we're going to teach you, but I'm going to tell you, you get a belligerent psycho from the ghetto land on my streets here. You're not gonna. It's not gonna be a 1-2 deal. It's not. Unfortunately, sadly, and I think it's proven finally. And I'm not bragging to get bragging rights, but we are in a time that there are men will hit a woman as hard as he hits another man, and it doesn't need to be a criminal anymore. It does obscene. I mean, you've seen it. There is no more that he's a woman. Just let it be. Move on. No, that doesn't stop. And I think, excuse me, more than ever now, more than just men training, women need to be serious about their training. I totally say that. They gotta, being strong, being fit is great. That's always a bonus. But I truly believe, yeah, if they don't have a good self-defense program, and they need to learn, the top and down, I say get Jiu-Jitsu and get good Muay Thai. And you're set. And then if somebody comes up, let's say she has someone online from somebody reputable teaching how to deal with, let's say in a situation of a firearm or a blade, because those are never 100%. Everything is based on theory. There's nothing based 100%. Like, for instance, I got this knife right here I got, and you're going to stop me. As sharp as this knife is. By the way, this is my girlfriend. She got me this, and it has a story with it. I can't share it all on live TV.
No,
So, but my point is, like, you see this blade right here I got. You think you're gonna put your arm up and stop this? There's just it's like this said, there's a weird false out there and expectation that it just turned me off. And my coach kind of did the same. He said they think I'm gonna do this whole week seminar and they're gonna be feeling badasses, and they don't know us been doing all of our lives. And we still, if I see a fight or something, I'm out. I never engage in fights. I never be a part of it. No, I will go watch it. Unless, every now and then I had to help somebody, something happened. That's your number one, 90% of your self-defense. Get out.
That's been a real eye-opener for me, coming around people like you guys who have been in combat and fight sports for a long time. The people who actually train, they don't do that. They don't pick the fights. They are not confrontational. People think that if you're a fighter, you would want to fight all the time. Like, no, these people actually respect violence. The people who have not been in violence are the ones who don't respect it, and the ones who are just so eager to jump into it.
Yes.
So, and it was definitely a big eye opener for me. But we're coming up on time a little bit, and I want to hit on our core concept for what our podcast is. It's a peak tension podcast. Peak tension has a lot of different meanings. Tension of muscles that when we're exposed to training, it stimulates and signals for different adaptations. Peak tension when you're in a submission, when you need a specific amount of pressure to complete a choke someone unconscious. peak tension on a braking mechanic to, remove someone's arm from their body as needed. For the people we want to talk to, we have a lot of respect for you, and we want to know what the peak tension moments for you have been professionally and personally. And what that really means is basically when the stakes were the highest and things had to happen one way or the other to where basically your life wasn't going to be the same afterward. Like those really big impactful moments for you. That's what we think of as peak tension moments. Would you mind giving us professional and personal examples of that?
Wow. Kind of getting me back. I think I'll start more with personal, Um, one was, okay, but this in person is funny when you said that, and it tested, I would say, my training as a teenager, and never in my life kind of felt how I was so in full control. It was a time I'll never forget it. We lived on a border area back in the day. It's out there's kind of like whole looks like almost a deserted area there, and things happen. Us kids were like to poke our nose and stuff. And literally, our home, it was like a big wall. I will explain to you almost like this is the wall and there's a shadow here from our wall. And there's a spotlight here. I just walked and turned and I saw this truck stop and three guys put this guy in the corner of our wall. And I snatched my dumbass little brother that time because I went out and called him and pull him. Literally, we were in this side, and I was pulling my body almost like became like a backpack on him, so he doesn't move or say anything. If they literally just turn and we can just move an inch, goes, and they killed someone right there. Why we said we couldn't go back or go, and it was literally that moment. I can tell you, it plays in my head to the point because anything could have been happened. It was really bad. And remember, I was more trained than my brother. And it's funny, I will tell you how I was able to elevate and I'm feeling him. And I keep telling him, he's like, just hold yourself together. It's almost like a movie. So that was kind of one that comes to mind when I think about it. Professionally, I would say two things. I don't know, Jen, how you felt. I mean, you had you felt your first KO before,
Yeah.
That one, the two, one was, my peak. I ever never knew how far. When I told my students, this is like a positive one. How far when you're so determined, you want to go. Like when I ripped my ACL and MCL after my first match in Brazil, it's funny how my determination that time and my training. And I remember my Salil looked at me and said, "You got to continue, right?" I said, "Mm-hmm." And I was just biting down, and just kind of continued. It's and go into the part where I finished the tournament and still did that interviews on that one. If I know I'm not Brazilian, and just that time, it was like I would feel like toward that last match, it was one peak moment I had when I got put in a triangle with this guy. He had those long legs, and that was kind of my kryptonite. I'm like, God. And literally, I'm just holding, and I'm over him in points. And he wanted to tap me out. Like, I'm going to take this dude's head off. And it's just funny. It's just like that moment when they called it, and you just like fall down and finally get your breath. It's kind of there, But my one, like I was joking with Jen, like KO, that made me decide, no, I'm not doing this anymore. When I had kicked in my head and ruptured my eardrum. So that's why, honey, I'm loud. Like, but there's a difference, in that, to be honest with you, go to your, there, like that difference of being seriously hurt, but you still have all that with you to go. But when I got hurt with my head, dude, that was kind of a different feeling. It's just like, I don't know, I can explain it, but Jen, when you eat a liver shot,
Yeah.
you want to move, but you can. That KO to me, I was there, but not there. But I'm like, man, my body's not moving. Like it was a weird feeling. So that's kind of, I think it goes to that peak tension in my moments.
That's wild. That's some intense stuff, man. But that's what we're looking for. Yeah, that's perfect.
I know. Sorry, it's that peak tension. I was like, well, these come up to mind.
I know you've got plenty more. I'm sure we'll talk again in the future. But for now, we'll bring an end to this one, and we really appreciate you coming on. And
appreciate it. Love it, guys.
yeah,
Cool.
man, love you too.
Are
Buddy.
you guys starting this? It's like, what are you guys doing this? Like weekly? How are we doing?
Oh, we're thinking about doing it every couple of weeks, having a new episode up. We're putting stuff in the can right now. We're not sure when this one will come out, but
Yeah,
we'll be having a recurring deal. But
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But to the audience,
Cool.
we appreciate you signing on.
Thank you,
And
guys.
thank you, buddy. We
We'll
will
be in touch.
absolutely. We will
Stay on the
come out
line.
with another episode soon. Take care.
Yeah. Maybe this time we'll have Jen just talking crap all the time.